Have you ever faced this debugging challenge where you have a link and when you mouse over on that, there is a popover comes out and you want to inspect the element within the popover, and the moment you try to inspect that, it goes off. What happened then? You try to go to that element, you see the boundaries, but you don't see the content. But you want to inspect those content, maybe you want to change color, maybe you want to fix some bugs, but that doesn't happen until unless you go back to this link again and you bring the popover. But again, if you try to inspect it back, it goes off. This is a real nightmare, isn't it? But good news is you don't have to feel frustrated anymore with this debugging challenge, or you don't have to break your head, because I'm going to teach you 3 solutions with that you can attack this problem and able to debug a scenarios like this seamlessly. Let's get into that. First, let's do it in the CSS way. Let's take up the same example we have seen a while back, that when you hover over this link and you get the popover, right? Let's look into the code very quickly. It's a simple HTML which is having a container div, and inside the div you have an anchor tag which is basically the link that says hover over me. Then when user hover over that link, there is a div that appears which says this is a popover. We have seen that in the UI. Now this is implemented using a CSS pseudo class called hover. How? Let's go to the CSS file. If I go to the hover.css file, you are seeing a style over here, right? It says dot container colon hover. This is a pseudo class. Catching that, if we have any element that is having a class called popover, in that case, whenever I am hovering on an element which is having a class called container, inside that if there is another child element which is having a class name called popover, that particular element's visibility make as visible from hidden and make the opacity 1 from the opacity 0. So by default, popovers visibility was hidden and opacity was 0. But whenever I'm hovering on the container element, inside that the popover elements visibility I'm making visible, opacity 1. So by default it was hidden, and whenever I'm mousing over it is coming up. Now this way, where I have implemented this using CSS hover pseudo class, you can actually debug, inspect everything within this without any trouble with the help of Chrome's debugger tool itself. Let's see that. So from code, we know the trigger point for this one, the hovering effect is on the container class, right? So if I go and inspect this one and go to this container class over here, I select this container. Now, after doing this selection, you will find this panel where you will have styles, computed layout, etc. Now, in this panel, you will have something called :HOB, which is for toggling element state. Okay, so click on this one. Once you click on this one, you will find few settings over here, and one of the setting is called :hover. Check this one, and the moment you do that, your pop-up is over here. And in this case, the best part is the pop-up is not going hidden. I can now very well inspect this pop-up. I can go to the content of the pop-up the way I wanted to, and then I can do anything I want. Previously, the problem was the entire content was getting hidden. I was only seeing the boundary, but right now I am able to inspect the content of the popover and change anything that I would like to. Okay, so this is one way. So to recap, if you are handling your implementation, the popover implementation using CSS pseudo class hover, in that case, you come to the trigger on which you have applied the hover, that particular element. In our case, it was container, you have seen in the code, and then come to the style section and then click on this HOV, which is called toggle element state, and click on this hover :hover checkbox. That's it. You will find your element over here and you should be able to inspect it. We'll be able to do anything with it. As usual, a request: if you like the content, please subscribe to the channel, because that gives a lot of motivation for me to create great content and bring it in front of you. It requires effort, but when you subscribe, when you join tapaScript, it gives lot of motivation. Thank you guys. Now let's see in JavaScript way. Here goes the similar link, and if I mouse over on that, similar kind of hover comes out. If I mouse out, the hover goes off. Same feature, but this time we have implemented in the JavaScript way. Let's see the code. Just like before, I have the HTML and again a container div. Inside the container div, similarly a link over here, And then I have a pop-up modal or popover. Inside that I have couple of paragraphs. So when I mouse over on this particular anchor tag, I am going to bring this div. But this time, instead of doing the CSS selector hover way, we have implemented it using the script tag. So for that, let us go to the script.js file. Here in the script file, we are selecting our element using the query selector, and the class we are giving dot hover hyphen link, which is nothing but the link on which we are doing a mouse over to bring the popover. So we are selecting this particular anchor and then adding a listener, and the listener is a mouse over listener, so that it will fire, the event will fire when you bring your cursor on that link. And in that case, we are showing this pop-up modal. If there is a mouse out, then we are hiding this pop-up modal. As simple as that. I'm not getting into the logic of what show hide pop-up modal is doing for the show and hide. The code is on the GitHub and the link is in the description of this video. If you're interested, you can look into this JavaScript code. It's pretty easy like before, just making the visibility visible, opacity 1, visibility hidden, opacity 0. As simple as that. But you can take a deeper look if you want to learn more. So if I go to site.css file, I won't find the pseudo class hover, which we have seen in the earlier implementation. So this is purely using JavaScript. Now, when you have implemented this piece using JavaScript, the earlier method of selecting this hover won't work because we don't have the hover pseudo class itself. In this case, there are a couple of ways you can achieve the same. Let's see that. The first way. First, you can inspect this particular link on which you are doing a mouse over to bring the element below it, making it visible, right? So for example, if I do that, this element is becoming visible. Fair enough. Now, if that is the case, the first way that you can do it is select the element that you are trying to inspect, the popover basically, right click on that and then say break on. There is something called break on, and here you can say attribute modification. Break on attribute modification. Okay. I have selected that. You are seeing there is a dot already appeared over here. Now you hover on this. The moment you hover on this, the JavaScript debugger will get a hit because you want to break on the changes on that particular element. What is the change? Is visibility was hidden. Now we are making it visible. Opacity was 0. Now we are making it opacity 1. So there is a change, right? Based on that change, this got triggered automatically. So you come to your debugger over here and then press F10 on the keyboard. Now you see over here, you have this guy. Now next thing that you can do is do an inspect. Now you have it, and then you do any modifications just like before that you want to do. For example, in this resolution, this is getting cut. You want to fix this one, for example. So you just select this div, you go to its style. We see there is a style on pop-up modal. There is a white space. I'm just removing this one and maybe giving a width of 200 pixel or something smaller than that. So now it is neat. It is looking good. I have fixed a bug, but you understood the point, right? If you are doing it in the JavaScript way, how to break into a breaking point so that you can inspect this popover and it is not going to run away. It's not going to go hidden when you put your mouse anywhere else on the UI. So this is the first way that you can do it. Let's see another way. All right, for this way, you have to make sure that you're opening this debugger in a detach mode. So you click on these three dots over at the top right, and then you select this first option to open this debugger in a detach mode. All this operation that you will be doing using keyboard, not with mouse in this particular case, in this particular solution mode. So first thing is mouse over on this item. Your popover has come. Now you have to go to your debugger. The problem is if you just put your mouse out, it will go off. So it defeats the purpose. So you cannot do anything with mouse. You have to use keyboard. Now press, if you're using Mac, you press command backtick, and that will take your control to this particular debugger at the right side. Now you have to select the console tab. For that, you select command, the combination of command and square bracket. You see, I'm moving from one tab to another tab. Keep going. You ultimately will come to the console tab. Okay. I'm using Mac, so I'm using the combination command and the square bracket. There will be equivalent key for Windows. There will be equivalent key for Linux. Now coming here, you give a command called debugger and press enter. That's it. Now all your JavaScript execution will be halted. No JavaScript will be executed. So that means if I now bring my mouse cursor, take it anywhere, the mouse out event handler will never be called. So it means that this particular guy is never going to go hidden. Now I can click on this inspect thing, come back to this. This will open the things on the elements tab, and I can do again anything that I want to do with it. For example, I'm going to remove this particular P and see how this dialog looks like. That's how it is. So I'm able to do debug, I'm able to do inspect, I'm able to do any changes that is required on this. So we learned 3 ways, one using the CSS and 2 ways using the JavaScript. So based on the implementation that you have for this popover thing, and if you want to inspect anything inside the popover, one of the way that you can go ahead and make your job done. If you know any other ways to handle this, please teach me, teach us. Put a comment into this particular video's comment section so that all of us learn together. And don't forget to like this video if you learn something new from this. Thank you very much. I'll come back again with another video. Don't forget to subscribe. I need your support. Thank you.